Hello. Okay.
Hello.
How are you today?
Uh, I'm here. Very busy as usual.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I do really appreciate you in general in doing this. And in just a second, I will get started. But I got the responses to your questions. So I'm just going to go based off of those and
Okay.
introduce myself and then you, and we'll just kind of go from there. If I don't word the questions exactly, it's just for the sake of time to make sure that, yeah.
Totally fine.
Thank you again. You were one of the first people I thought of, and we just really appreciate all the hard work you're doing. It goes without saying, you're just doing a great job, and it's obvious the impact you're having on families. So,
Thank you.
right. Well, I'll get started.
Okay.
My name is Nicole Sheppard. I am the P Coordinator at Greenville First Steps in the upstate, or Greenville, South Carolina. And I am here today with Sara Mendez with the South Carolina Department of Mental Health. And Sara is a school-based mental health therapist. And I will let her introduce herself and tell us a little bit more about how long she's been at the organization and a few other things about herself.
Yeah. So I have been with Department of Mental Health for going on 4 years in August of this year. I have done school-based the entire time. So my job is essentially to work with children between kindergarten all the way up until 5th grade on different goals that they have as it relates to mental health conditions. And most of those are going to be like ADHD, ODD, autism, depression, anxiety. There's a whole plethora of things that we do. And so some things about myself, I have 2 children. I love them so much. They are definitely my reason for why I do what I do. I want to make it very well known that the biggest reason why I wanted to do Triple P in the first place was actually to understand skills for myself in order to apply at home, but also to help the kids and the families that I'm working with here in my job. So that's a little bit about me without going too deep.
Wonderful. Thank you. No, that says a lot, and I appreciate your responses. Sara is trained in the positive parenting program, again with Greenville First Steps, and trained in one of our first training cohorts, and actually trained virtually. And when she trained virtually, it was with some other team members at Greater Greenville Mental Health, who are also school-based therapists. So they were trained in the 10-session Triple P standard model and have been doing a wonderful job with the families they work with at their schools, but also have been willing to see some families from the general public as the project continues to grow in the upstate. So we're very thankful for her and her team. Sara's been delivering Triple P in different formats, and now it's been a hybrid, I imagine, in the virtual and in-person world that we are back into for almost 2 years now. Mm-hmm. She tells me if she could have a billboard with anything Triple P related on it, what would it be and why? I love this question. It would say, "We all need help sometimes, and to normalize asking for help despite your background." Tell me more about your response, Sara.
So I think it's very important that with the families that we work with, but also with ourselves, we understand it doesn't matter the color of our skin. It doesn't matter how much money we're bringing in or not bringing in. Mm-hmm. Kids are kids. And parents are parents. And, there's a lot of different ways to parent, and we hear it from our elders and from books and shows about all these things that you're supposed to do and not supposed to do with your kids. And I think that the biggest thing that we can do for families and for just each other is to help normalize the fact of we all need help. Like, we never always have the right answers. Mm-hmm. And I often find as a parent, doing Triple P with other families, I even find responses from the parents I work with, and I'm like, I need to try that at home. Like, that is a great idea.
Wow. Yeah.
So I think that when we are really engaging in these Triple P sessions, even though I'm there to be the person who is trained and kind of go through this. I often find that having that sense of normalization in a session to say, I go through that too, really helps to motivate my parents to say, okay, I'm not crazy. This isn't, something just out of this world. And so if I had a billboard, I think that would be the most important thing to share, is that everybody goes through things. I don't care which position you're in. And we should be able to be more comfortable with that.
I love that. Thank you. Well said. So I hear you saying that the positive parenting strategies and principles are applicable to everyone and anyone.
Anyone. I don't care who you are. I can find something that we can all use within Triple P.
Right. That's great. That's great. What's motivating you to deliver Triple P right now?
I would say the fact that my families, a lot of the time they come to me and they're like, I don't understand why my kid's acting like this. I didn't teach them that. Where are they getting this from? So my biggest reasoning is actually to help parents understand their children better. And we often get into this mode of just because we're the parents, we think we know our children so well. But I've noticed that in today's society, a lot of children are more shut down. They're not really wanting to open up as much, and parents are really busy. And so trying to find time to get to know their children has been difficult. So I would say that the biggest thing that I've noticed from this would be parents are getting to know their children in a different type of way. And children are starting to open up because they know my parent is trying. It's not just punishment all the time, where the children are then shutting down.
I love that. And what a testament to the work that statement says you're doing with the families, with the knowledge, the general knowledge that you are providing them as a mental health therapist, and the general Triple P knowledge that you're providing the parent or caregiver. That's really a testament to normalizing it, not only for the parent or caregiver, but for the children as well. I haven't heard that statement before, and that's very important. I love that. Is Triple P important for caregivers and parents today, specifically for, and why is it important to caregivers today in your mind?
Well, I think that at least I'm not old, but for my generation and those that are older than me, there's a lot of this history of children are to be seen and not heard. Spankings fix everything, taking away things. That I really feel like we need to think outside the box. While some of those things might work at times, there's a lot of research. This is an evidence-based practice. And so by using things that are evidence-based and research has been done and it's been used time and time again, it tells us that there are other ways besides the ways that we've been told in the past in order to raise children to be competent, to be multifaceted, to be holistic in the way that they think and behave and get along with people. And, some of that is also breaking generational curses. I don't have to, spank this person and this person. And these are the things that you have to do. It's like consistency and being reliable and being available for your children and setting boundaries and having them understand, I respect you as a person, even though you're a child. And I am also going to demand respect. I feel like there's a lot of these principles that are outlined within Triple P. And that's why it applies to everybody. Because if we can learn how to respect each other as, a parent and a child, if I can respect my child, then I'm modeling that my child can also respect me, which also means that when my child gets old enough, they can respect their children and their children can respect them. And they have learned through modeling and practice how this is the way that could be a healthier way for people instead of going towards other ways that are thought to be helpful. I just think that there's more to parenting than just punishment.
Well said. Well said. Sounds like you're saying that parenting is very multifaceted and there is a lot to it.
It
And
is.
you can speak to that personally. And so what's one thing that you would say the positive parenting program has done for caregivers that you didn't expect?
Yes. So I'm trying to think the the best way to put it. That's a very good question.
I know you at one point described a very big success story.
So yes, so I do remember there was one family I was working with. This specific child was diagnosed with oppositional defiance disorder. Basically means I don't want to follow directions. I want to do what I want. You know, it doesn't matter what you tell me. I'm going to do the opposite intentionally. And I remember meeting this mom, and she was just like, I don't know what to do with this kid. You know, he's been in therapy, and I've tried everything. I've taken stuff away. I've tried spanking him. I've tried grounding him, yada, yada, yada. And, you know, it was at another school, and the therapist had referred them for triple P. And I said, I'll take it on. Like, that sounds fine, you know, whatever. And when I tell you, it was so amazing to interact with this parent. The first couple sessions, I really go into like, what can you expect from triple P, right? So I always say the first two sessions are all background. What has happened, what could be the influences. And as we're talking about it, you can see the parent's shoulders just like, oh, this has happened, and this is why, blah, blah. And you kind of see a lot of this defeating attitude and just a mood, just kind of like, oh, I don't really want to talk about this, but it is what it is. And then I call the third session, since there's 10, the third one, I call it the feel good session. And it's all the great things that you do with your kid. So, you know, what's all the fun stuff that you do? What do you guys talk about? What kind of ideas can we come up with that you like and your child likes? And so that kind of perks parents up a little bit, I've noticed, because it is so affirming as a parent when you're dealing with difficulties at home and you're saying, well, I am doing this right. And so you kind of see that switch of the parent saying, oh, so I do spend time with my kids, and I don't have to spend 6 hours a day with my kid for it to be quality time. And this is how I find moments, right? So you kind of start to see this mood of the parent just kind of increase slightly. And then the session every parent waits for is the fourth session, which is, how do we even deal with this? Like, what do I do? What are the strategies? And so by the time we get to that session, the parents are like, yes, like I've got answers. I have all this stuff I want to try. And then I have to tell my parents, pump the brakes. And they're like, what? Say, well, let's pick two things. You have a list of 20. Let's pick two things. When we get to those two things, those are going to be the two most important. I just want you to focus on that. And then when those two things get mastered, we're going to focus on another two things. And we're going to slowly build upon it. And you're going to find that, you know, maybe the top 5 of difficult behaviors that you're having issues with actually ends up resolving the other 20. Because the big ones, they slowly start to form into these certain behaviors, and you start to get used to and comfortable with how you're parenting in a new way, that your mood starts to change, your outlook starts to change as a parent, and your child's outlook and behavior starts to change. And so in 5, 6, and 7, all it is repetition, practice. What's going well? What do we need to improve on? What are you going to work on? What's going well? What do you need to improve on? What are you going to work on? And so it's just this tug and pull of just, this is what we're doing. And the thing that I love about being the practitioner is I get to go back and say, you did do that well. Okay, you said you need to work on this. Like I might have like this specific parent tell me, well, he's still not wanting to get up in the morning. Great. So what could you do differently? And so she was picking and choosing these certain things. And by the time I mean, honestly, most of my families, by the time we get to session 6 or 7, they're ready to start wrapping up triple P, because they had already seen, oh, these are the couple little things I need to change, and they see this big difference. So with this specific parent with the ODD child, by the time we actually got to session 7, she was telling me all these great things that were happening at school and at home. And he was going to bed when he was supposed to. He was picking up after himself. They weren't having to yell. You know, she could talk to him. He was coming to her and talking to her. She could ask for space. Like, there were all these things happening. So when we get to sessions 8, 9, and 10, all about planning ahead, we're talking about, okay, we're getting ready to finish up our sessions. I want you to know that you've got this. When we got to session 10, Mom was so happy to see the difference. And she kind of made me cry a little bit, because she was sharing how the symptoms he had when we first started triple P, they were no longer there. And now we're questioning, is he even oppositionally defiant? Like, if you can just change a couple of things about your parenting skills and learn to be consistent and follow up and feel supported,
Yeah.
what a world of difference it really does make. Because maybe your child really doesn't have this diagnosis. Maybe it was just a change of environment so that this child is comfortable enough to open up and be able to communicate properly.
Wow.
And so I would say that was like the biggest eye opener for me, to be able to see that and to have that, and to meet the child as well. And for him to say, I now like spending time with my mom, and mom to say, I now like doing certain things with my son. I hear that often, a lot of parents saying, I'm sick of this. And by the end, they're saying, I actually want to spend time with my kid. Like, that's a big deal. That is a huge deal.
Sara, that is enormous. And kudos to mom, and kudos to you for the guidance that you provided her. I mean, even just having, I just keep thinking of a beacon of hope. And sometimes just having a little bit of hope and knowing things are not hopeless, they're not helpless. And there's someone who cares, who I've established rapport with, who eventually introduced you to this child, and that they want to spend time with. That's really huge. And that's very touching. And it just, again, goes to show the great work that mom and you did. And kudos to her as well.
Yeah, she did awesome.
Absolutely. Would you give advice to a parent or caregiver right now, specific advice about someone that'd like to learn more about triple P, who might be hesitant to start services?
Yeah. So if I had to choose a piece of advice for someone who is more hesitant, I would probably say that anything that you're willing to put forth is going to come back to you. So if you have the energy and the time, and you honestly really want this change, you'll see it. You will see it. The only time I've ever seen things not work out as well is when someone's like, I don't have the time to dedicate to this. But when I see a parent saying, when's our next session? I have more questions. I want to do more. I want to show up. I want to engage. I want to be present. It's usually, a lot of time it won't even take 10 sessions. Sometimes I'm doing the 10 sessions just because like I like spending time with them. Right. But a lot of the parents, they see things happen so much more quickly when they're able to be consistent and have that practice.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing is, if you have that hesitation, please know that what do I call them? It's like the pains and the woes of parenting, right? It only happens in the beginning. At first, this is really, really hard. Don't expect that you're going to like get a tip and then you're going to do it, and then all of a sudden it's going to be good for the rest of their remaining of their 18 years with you. It really is about patience and having grace with yourself and saying, you know what, I might have not been able to do everything right. But it's not about being a perfect parent. It's about being a graceful parent. And it's about being, having grace with yourself and patience with yourself to say, I don't expect perfection, but I do expect to learn and to grow and to say, how can
Absolutely.
I be better for myself, for my kid, for
Yeah.
others? So,
Yeah. So it sounds like you're saying, being a better parent or being a better caregiver, that can make you a better person,
oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
If you could give one piece of advice, let's say, for instance, we brought a new practitioner on board. What piece of advice would you give to that new practitioner?
So kind of tying back to grace as a parent, grace as a practitioner. Understand that if a family doesn't want it, they're not going to put in the time. Being honest with yourself to understand you're not a savior. You're not there to change every single thing. You're there to just be a beacon and be a guide and to say, you know what, it's okay. Like
Right.
if
Yeah.
if something came up and you can't do this right now, that's okay. Guess what? We're not going anywhere. There's always going to be someone that's doing triple P parenting skills. There's always going to be someone that's willing to help.
Right.
So not adding that pressure to yourself to say, oh, they're not coming, they're not doing this, they're not doing that. Just breathe. Guess what? There's so many people to help. There will
Yeah.
always be someone else new. And if you are having difficulty with people showing up or following through, understand that everybody has their time. Some people only need 2 sessions. Some people need all 10. Some people need more than 10. Some people need a simple conversation to open up the light and say, oh, that's what I need to do. Okay, I got it. But also reach out. Like there are other practitioners. There are other people that have tried different things. Ask them what they're doing. I've even had to do that with some fellow coworkers and say, what do I do with this? I don't know what to do. But it all ties back into asking for help, normalizing asking that, and knowing that if you don't know what's going on or you forget a form or whatever, like just email somebody, contact someone, somebody will help you in the end. That's what I have found to be the most helpful because my brain goes everywhere. So I always know I can count on Greenville First Steps to let me know if I'm missing something.
Wow. You're doing a great job, and that was a great response. And it isn't often that I have to tell you that you're missing anything, if ever.
Appreciate that.
Absolutely. And I love that you reminded everyone just to breathe sometimes, and you used the word grace a lot. And that's so applicable in the world right now, and just that we sometimes just have to slow down, stop and think, and remind ourselves just to breathe and give grace. And parenting is the hardest job in the entire world, hands down. I'm completely
Hands
convinced.
down.
And normalizing, the word that you used was normalize. And I liked that a lot because that is truly what we are attempting to do, is just let people know that the free support is available and that we're normalizing it. We'll talk to them individually if need be. You'll talk to them individually with the parents that you have at your schools or in the community, just to let them know that we're there to support them when they're ready.
Yes.
When they're ready.
When they're ready. It's
Absolutely.
all on them. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Well, is there anything that you want to add or a question that you wish I had asked you?
So I really like being asked, how do I apply it at home? Because
Wonderful.
like I said, this is not just about me being a practitioner and all of these things. I love triple P. It's okay. So I love triple P. I love the fact that there's different levels to it depending on what's going on. I love the fact that people have access to, depending on intensity, they can come to a level 4 person and do 10 sessions. They can go to a level 3 person and do 4 sessions to focus on a specific thing. You have level 2s, it's just general like lunch and learn type deals. You have seminars, you have flyers, you just have so much things that we can do. And we're so used to going to Google and Googling things. And sometimes we find very good answers, and we have some things that are like questionable. So at home, I find myself often, because I have 2 children, one is 8 going on 9, and one just turned 1 year old, big age gap. One is a boy and one is a girl. So each of them are very, very different. They have their own personalities. And I find that as I've been learning with my older child, there have been certain things where I've kind of questioned, I'm like, did I talk to him properly? Did I actually come to him, or did I yell across the house? Did I lose my patience, which then impacted him? And how do I develop that conversation to say, look, man, I don't feel I need to be rude in order for you to listen. I want to respect you. What do we need to do as a team to make this happen? I am your parent. There are going to be consequences and there will be boundaries, but there's also this reward of we get to interact and we get to do things together based off of what you're doing and how the world is working. And it helps me to have a more conscious and intentional time with my child too. I get to say, this is what you're into. This is what you want to do. And so I get to be very creative. And then I look at my youngest one and I find myself already in my head like, well, if I do this with her, this could lead to this. So let me try this strategy while she's young so I don't have to worry about it when she's older.
Yeah, right.
So I can't predict everything and I can't stop everything from happening, but surely I can have this discussion and be introverted with myself and really just dive into my own mind on how I am being as a parent. Because I do feel like I am modeling for my children what they should be looking at for themselves. And sometimes, these things work. Sometimes people agree with the way that things are done. And sometimes people don't. But really, it's all about, do you have the drive and the energy to apply it to all areas? And I wish that anyone who is certified in any level of Triple P engage in other Triple P type of things based off of their unique circumstance. I know that I do with my son's school. And I will attend lunch and learns and all of these things because I like to know what's happening, how best to help my child, because I believe in karma. And I believe that when I do something for someone, it will pass along, whether it comes back to me or it comes back to my child, it all comes full circle. And so I honestly believe that in my home, anytime I can apply a Triple P principle at home and I can see it at work, it also helps my families because I can tell them, well, this is what I did with my kid. Do you think that would apply to you? Yes or no? If not, what could apply? If yes, let's try it and see what happens. It's just a big old guinea pig experiment. That's what parenting is.
Yeah.
So I shouldn't say that, but I did.
Well, great job, Sara. Great job. We are more than fortunate to have you on this team, and I really appreciate you taking part in this first podcast and the first installment of this podcast. And thank you for all that you do for the families in our community.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Nicole. I love your earrings. I have to tell you.